you salty sailors, time to raise anchor and set sail for your best scrawny life. Arr! Between the towns of Monroe and Knoxville, Iowa, where the Highway 14 bridge crosses the White Breast Creek arm of Lake Red Rock. In this precise location, at this precise level, the water flowing down White Breast Creek arm meets the still water of Lake Red Rock, setting the stage for a swampy adventure, a spectacle of the toothy variety. The time has come. And I have timed it well. The big girls are indeed in this very location. I don't always get the timing and the location just right, but this time I have. However, during the 4 years of the drought, the willow scrub and the weeds and the cottonwoods grew up tremendously in this area. So conditions are not perfect. It's going to be tougher to actually land the fish than it has been in previous years with better conditions. But the big girls are here. And it's not long before a hard hook set brings us into contact with our first large female of the day, which of course immediately buries itself in the weedy debris. Now the chances of landing such a difficult to hook and powerful fish under these conditions is basically none. However, I don't even care. I'm approaching this whole day with an attitude of tremendous gratitude. This is something I do that separates me from almost every other fisherman. And 6 months ago, I didn't know if I would ever be able to do it again. I didn't know if I would ever be able to walk without a walker again. And it would probably scandalize most people to think that I've taken the long hours and the efforts of the doctors and nurses that have given me this new lease on life, temporary as it may be, and spent that on gar fishing. But this, in fact, does mark a return to my normally abnormal behavior. And I do it simply because I enjoy the spectacle of it. But at this point, it's pretty much game over. I've got 15-pound fluorocarbon tippet. I'm trying to pull a probably 10-pound fish up through 200 pounds of waterlogged straw. So, I mean, it's pretty much a lost cause for this particular fish at this point.
I think we lost her.
Now, I wouldn't be here at all if I were the sort of person who gives up easily. But dabbing pockets in this tremendous amount of weedy debris just simply isn't going to work. And so I'm going to have to, one, look for some clearer water and push up into the willow scrub, hopefully to get away from that mat of tangled weeds a little bit. Otherwise, it's more or less just not going to happen. The gar themselves are exhausted, just trying to deal with this mat of weeds and push through it. But make no mistake, the thing to understand here is that carp and buffalo are also spawning in this area. And there are not largemouth bass here, or crappie, or anything like that. The thing that's going to prevent those millions of baby carp and buffalo eggs that are going to hatch here soon from just completely taking over the lake are these gar. A gar's first piscivorous meal is in all likelihood a baby carp. So these fish are native fish, and they are doing a great job of controlling the population of an invasive species. I mean, granted, the population is out of control, but it would be worse without them. Here, conditions are a little better amongst these cottonwoods, although colonies of ants and spiders stranded by the rising water will try to board your kayak in a condition like this. But the fishing's a little better. I'm not sure if the problem is with my SD card or with my GoPro, but sometimes it acts like it's recording, but it actually isn't. And I did manage to land a pretty decent sized gar, a big female. Then the camera beeped and looked like it was recording, but it actually wasn't. Luckily, I've taken some pictures with my phone as well. They're great fish, a real beast of the swamps. But yes, there are all sorts of hidden dangers in these marsh environments, and the gar themselves, of course, are a relatively dangerous fish to try and handle. So it's not for everyone. The typical spawning behavior is for a large female to lead a procession of smaller males that follow and attempt to spawn with her. The process of spawning leaves them somewhat exhausted, as you see here. Here's a large female with its head just sort of buried in the weeds. Normally this fish would have swam away. And they still are powerful fish, even though they've spent a lot of their energy in spawning, as you'll see here shortly. Yeah, yeah, you're not going to grab it, but yeah, their behavior changes a bit. They're more approachable almost, just more, and of course they're reluctant to strike the fly. They're mostly preoccupied with spawning. If you know how aggressive these fish are later on in the year when the temperature rises, this is relatively mild behavior, and they're not as interested in striking everything. Oh, that one did. It gave kind of a half-hearted strike there. And there's a group of a female with a group of males. But yeah, their behavior changes during the spawn. They're more tired and a little bit less likely to strike, but you can coax a strike out of them. I had left my gloves and forceps in the kayak, so I had to drag this fish back to it. And on the way, we encountered another good-sized female there, making her way through the grass, or a large male. Nice sized fish there. Anyway, got there. Proceed to unhook this one. There we go. That's the key thing, just establishing some reasonable safety procedures and sticking to them. Spawning group here. Did it bite the fin of that fish? I think one of those fish, I think maybe that's a female, and one of the fish bit its fins, maybe to make it release eggs or something. Something going on there. There's the... Not sure what that was all about. Gar relationships probably just as complicated as human relationships. Those two appear to be kind of forming a couple. Armor-plated, snaggletooth swamp love right there. What a wonderful thing. this fish, it had stopped. It had stopped cruising when it came across my shadow, but I don't think it really realized that there was a person standing there. It did strike the fly, kind of half-heartedly. The hook pops out here in a minute. But it didn't rush away, so I let the fly down next to it again. Got another kind of a half strike out of it, but eventually they do kind of wise up that some sort of game is being played.
I can't believe he struck it again.
Anyway, fairly reluctant to strike due to being preoccupied with the spawn here. On my way back, and the biggest fish, it is something that most fishermen just don't want to deal with, that sort of environment and situation. And the biggest fish were not in this shallow flooded grass, they were in the creek where the water's a little bit deeper, but it was so muddy that I was not able to track the fish. They would appear and disappear so quickly. I just simply wasn't able to target them. But there were some huge fish, some just real monsters cruising the creek. Fishing the spawn does give you an idea what the maximum size of the population is. Another reason to do it. As I was on my way back, kept being a lot of big gars, like I mentioned, cruising the creek. This is actually one of the smaller ones I saw, but did manage to track it for long enough to be able to get a cast to it and hook it while I was kind of folding up the kayak and so forth. I don't know why I should have just set the rod down and grabbed it with both hands. Of course, you do want to grab it right behind the head, but a second hand to control the tail would be good too. Like I said, there's a big fish like that is as strong or stronger than one of my arms can shake itself powerfully and shake free. So anyway, that's the gar spawn. An interesting spectacle, to be sure.